In his poem Not Chosen for the inauguration years ago, Richard Blanco wrote, "But home was home. I dusted off the secrets, cleaned up the lies, nailed the creaky floors down, set a fire, and sat with history books I'd never opened, listened to songs I'd never played, pulled out the old map from a dark drawer, redrew it with more colors, less lines." When we decided to do our series on the Underground Railroad, we considered what it might mean for a team of white researchers and presenters to offer these stories to a largely white congregation. Would this be an act of appropriation itself? Would the sharing of these stories somehow provide an out from doing the work of racial justice now? There were a lot of questions, but ultimately the purpose of the project shone through: to speak names, to tell stories, to bring back into our conscious memory the work of those who saved lives generations ago, to do the work of sitting with history books we never opened, listening to songs we had never played, and redrawing our shared history. The work of memory, of storytelling, and of history is, the Nelson Mandela Foundation tells us, the work of being human. They write, "Everyone, in a sense, is a memory worker, for the calling to do memory work is arguably a fundamental human calling. Of course, there are formal practitioners, the archivists, museologists, storytellers, anthropologists, historians, researchers, archaeologists, pathologists, and so on. By memory worker, here we mean anyone exploring, engaging, and using memory in endeavors to reckon with past human rights violations, injustices, violent conflict, or war." We've been engaging in memory work, storytelling work, work that reminds, challenges, holds accountable, celebrates, and hopefully, ultimately, helps to begin to heal. And the point of such work is not to elicit guilt, not to shame us for our collective injustices, or to celebrate victories in the hopes that it releases us from responsibility. The point of such memory work is that without it, without telling the truth, redrawing the history, uncovering and amplifying those voices, without doing that, we can never heal. We can never move forward, and we are destined to repeat the same histories, albeit in different forms. We may have outlawed slavery in this nation, but we found ways to continue sanctioned oppression that has wrought generational trauma, has denied generations opportunity, and that to this day impacts the lives of every child of color born into this country. And if we can't tell the truth about what was, then we can't tell the truth about what is, and then change will elude us generation after generation. The call then is to listen deeply, beyond the noise, for the true stories of pain and glory and sorrow and joy, and to listen not only to those stories we might call history, but to listen to those stories now. Because still to this day, pain and glory and sorrow and joy are real in the lives of folks who experience oppression. Black and brown folks, LGBTQ folks, immigrants. Injustice abounds, but that does not mean that there's no hope. Blanco lifts up the possibility of forgiveness, the possibility of love. And in her soul-stirring and ground-shaking inauguration poem, Amanda Gorman lifts up that we need not be perfect. Whole doesn't mean unblemished. We are a bruised nation in so many ways. We bear the scars of the sin of slavery. We bear the scars of our warmongering and greed, of our division and our unchecked hatred. We bear the scars now, too, of grieving, shared sorrow. We stand in this moment brokenhearted, but not broken. bruised but still filled with possibility. Possibility we can only realize if we're willing to tell the truth about where we have come from. If we're willing to do the memory work that allows us to integrate our past into our present and move forward from the trauma, aware that we will make mistakes, but that we can indeed still emerge whole and hopeful. Amanda Gorman, at just 22, exhorts us to remember that we're not broken, but unfinished, as she says, waiting to rise, she says. Rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West, rise from the windswept Northeast, rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states, rise from the sun-baked South, she says, to rebuild, reconcile, and recover so that our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Her words are what we are called to. And this is what we call each other to. When we witness to each other's lives, when we work together for justice, when we commit together to living lives of principle and purpose, we call each other to being the light, to being the love, to living in the world in ways that create safety for truth-telling, that create welcome for all, ways that will bring about the beloved community. The work of racial justice at the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood doesn't end with the end of this particular project. There will be programs, educational opportunities, possibilities to think together about our various commitments. Please pay attention to your emails and notices that come out, or better yet, join the Racial Justice Committee and get involved in helping plan and create USR's continued path to racial justice. And don't stop telling stories, the ones that break open the truth of our shared history and the truthful versions of your own story. Our world needs memory workers that will help us heal. Let's be those memory workers together. Let's keep telling stories, keep listening deeply, and keep moving forward.